You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. I'm glad to be here with you, and I'm glad that you are here with us. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM right here in Greater Sudbury in Ontario, Canada. And we are happy to welcome all of the Suffolk, England people, Sudbury, from Sudbury, England, and in the UK. So we're grateful for all of those joining us as well as they see Sudbury News, and they like and follow the page on Facebook. We're thankful for you as well, and maybe we could somehow incorporate the 3 Sudburys that I'm aware of in the world, one in Massachusetts, in the United States, and in Suffolk, UK, and right here in Ontario, Canada. So anyways, we're grateful to have you here. We're not only live on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio, we're also streaming at cklu.ca, which is our website, the station's website. We are your campus and community radio station. We've been around since 1984. Started off in a little trailer on Laurentian's main campus on Ramsey Lake Road, and now we are coming at you live from the new MacEwan School of Architecture, which is the old Telegraph building on the corner of Elgin and Elm Street. That's where our studio is, CKLU. If you want to support the station, all you do is you go to cklu.ca. You can buy a mug or a t-shirt or something there just to support, or make a donation. If you have a talent that can lend itself well to a community radio station, volunteers are invited and welcomed here at the station. We're grateful for all of our volunteers. It's mainly a volunteer-run station, and it runs on support from the community. So we're grateful for you, all of those who support the station. We're also coming at you live. The show is Sudbury News Talk each and every morning, weekday morning between 7:30 and 8:30 on Facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube.com/Sudbury News. So we're grateful to those 2 platforms that we are still able to stream to them. We're thankful that that particular, those, because of Bill C-18, Bill C-11, the Online News Act, we're not sure how long we will be able to continue, but we're grateful for the time being. So we've got a great show planned for you today. We will be talking about the weather, first of all, a little update on the Sudbury Wolves, and how they fared last night against the North Bay Battalion here in town. And then they'll also be in action this Friday night right here in Sudbury. So we'll have a little bit of that. And then we have some local news headlines. There was an interesting incident on Halloween. Got the news a little bit later yesterday about 2 youngsters basically robbing 2 other youngsters of their candy at a gunpoint. It wasn't a gun that shot bullets, but it was like an air BB gun or whatever. But still, it's pretty crazy. And other stories as well. There was someone at large thought to be in Sagamok. So if you're in, if that could affect you in any way, shape, or form, that and many more local stories, along with we will talk about the carbon tax and the fact that Justin Trudeau is giving a bit of a break to only certain Canadians. And it seems to be those certain Canadians he's giving a break to on their home heating from the carbon tax this winter are the ones that are pretty much going to be voting for him. So is that political? Should he extend the carbon tax to other Canadians as well? We have a prominent politician who will be visiting Sudbury and bringing a petition with him to sign, so that way all Canadians can also have relief from the carbon tax this winter from our home heating. But anyways, we'll talk about that and much, much more right after weather and sports. We'll get your comments and much more right after this. Or not. Let's see. What just happened there? I have no idea. Okay, here we go again. All right, and Sudbury Weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. As usual, you can find Sudbury Weather at our on our website, basically, and that's where you can find all the news aggregated into one convenient location as well from all of our news outlets right here in town. As I get the Sudbury Wolves information up for our next segment. Trying to multitask here, and it isn't the easiest thing in the world to do, but we do our best. And here's the weather. Currently, it is 0 degrees. Feels like -5 out there. Today, we can expect it to be cloudy with a 40% chance of flurries, changing to a 30% chance of rain showers near noon. The high will be +3. And tonight, cloudy with a 30% chance of showers and a low of +1. Tomorrow, cloudy, 70% chance of showers. You don't see the 70% chance very often. Anyways, the winds will be gusting up to 50, the high of 6. That's for tomorrow. Your long range, again, 70% chance of showers tomorrow, high of 6. 40% on Saturday and Sunday with a high of 3 and 2. Respectively for the weekend. So between 2 and 3 degrees for Saturday and Sunday with a 40% chance of showers. Monday, calling for a chance of snow again. 70% chance, high of 0, and then chance of snow and rain on Tuesday, high of 2, 60% chance, and then cloudy, high of 1. So no sun forecasted in the next 6 or so days. A look at your satellite view over northern Ontario. Clouds with a little bit of activity. Looks like it's coming our way in the Wawa vicinity. And as you know, the wind comes from the west during this time of year, northwest. And that is your Sudbury Weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back with sports update and your comments and local headlines along with what the heck is going on with our carbon tax right after this. Oh, and that's why I did that the other day. No wonder. Somehow it erased the Sudbury Wolves logo here because I was doing the Sudbury Wolves with the Sudbury 5 logo a couple days ago, and now I know why. It just kind of disappeared. It happens every once in a while with technology. So there you go. That's your insider view. What a great game last night at the Sudbury Arena. It was pretty phenomenal. You had everything you need in a great game, including overtime. And the North Bay Battalion beat us the first 2 times we faced them. Really close games. And this game was similar. It was back and forth. Ended up being in a tie, 4-4. But an awesome overtime, quick overtime goal. Face-off. And a great pass and a little breakaway and a quick deke by Quentin Musty got us victory 5-4. Same score that the North Bay Battalion beat us on Sunday. We beat them last night. Now, next game is Friday, sponsored by Sudbury.com, who we'll have a little bit of a couple of headlines from right after this. And the Niagara Ice Dogs are in town. And they're 7th in the Eastern Conference with a 3-4-4-1 record. The Ice Dogs led by 2023 OHL priority selection, 2nd overall pick Ryan Rubroek. Anyways, not easy to pronounce the name. who's recorded 4 goals and 3 assists for 7 points on the season. Fans can pack the den for both for the Friday matchup with tickets now on sale. greatersudbury.ca/tickets and or the Sudbury Wolves box office at the Sudbury Arena box office. And for a full list of themes and lineup for the Wolves home games, you can visit the SudburyWolves.com and basically check out the theme schedule there. We're grateful for the Sudbury Wolves team this year. It looks like they are going to go far. They're going to do well. It's good to get out and support them. It looked a little thin in the stands last night. I was not able to be at the game because I had to make sure the game was live from the studio here at CKLU and do the technical end of things, so I wasn't able to be there live. But I would have been if I could have been. It's just great hockey. Now, I know Councillor Labby says there's plenty of parking downtown. You just have to be prepared to walk. Now, that's debatable, arguable. I think that's the main reason why we don't have enough butts and seats for these games myself. But that's just me. So maybe I just need to be educated or re-educated on that. But we'll have more on that on some upcoming shows as we talk with our city councillors. That's your Sudbury Sports, brought to you by SudburySports.com. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and much more right after this. Okay, and we're back. And there's plenty of people joining us this morning. We're grateful for you being on. Denise, good morning, everyone on Facebook. Monique, good morning with a sunshine smiley emoji. Morning, Vin. Judy, good morning, and thank you for doing the show. Thank you, Judy, for being here. Marianne says, good morning, everyone, from Barrie with hand clapping. Emoji. I always mention the emojis. I have no idea why. YouTube is freezing. Okay. Well, I'm not sure why. I'm not talking about anything too controversial today. It shouldn't be. Liked and shared. Thank you very much, Marianne. Marie says, good morning, with a sunshine smiley emoji. Belinda, good morning. One day you'll tell your story of how you overcame what you went through, and it will be someone else's survival guide. Wow, that is so cool and so true at the same time. You also go on to say, Trudeau knows what he's doing. Majority of people heat with natural gas. His typical playbook is pitting one against another. And I believe a lot of people will agree with you, including Marianne, who says absolutely 100% is his middle name should be Division. Justin Division Trudeau. Got a ring to it. David, good morning. Stay safe. Take care. Thank you, David. Thanks for being with us. And Vince says, Trudeau has essentially admitted the tax has more of a negative effect on people, yet still chose to be selective on who is going to fund his $1 billion slush fund his party is bragging about. And we'll have more on that as we dig into and dive into that topic today of the carbon tax. We'll have a quote from Pierre Poilievre on that slush fund and how there was a leaked phone conversation or something like that of how they were kind of bragging about it. But anyways, there's that. And then there's there's going to be a petition signing here in town with a high level politician being in town. And you're going to have a chance to physically meet and show your discontent with the carbon tax at our local MP's office today. I can give you more details. If I don't get a word back from my source telling me whether or not to say it on the show, I'm just going to say it. So I can't keep it a secret. I've already given enough out already. Belinda, walking downtown Sudbury at night. No, thank you. Yeah, okay. There's also, so the parking is one thing, right? And then feeling safe might be another. Marianne, right? It really isn't. Oh, he really is in love with himself. I think you're talking about Trudeau. So, Danica, good morning. Heart emoji, much appreciated. Isaiah says YouTube is fine on your end. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I like knowing what's going on with the different social media platforms, just in case there's something on my end that needs to be resolved. So let's dive right into what's going on right here in Greater Sudbury, and then we'll have time to move on to other things. Sudbury.com headlines today talking about a doctor shortage in Northern Ontario. Surprise, surprise. But the OMA calls for a concerted effort to fix Northern Ontario's doctor shortage. That's a headline from Sudbury.com. Also going on in Northern Ontario is multiple bomb threats against Northern Ontario schools. Heard this on CBC Radio coming home from work yesterday. Provincial police are investigating multiple bomb threats at schools across Northern Ontario that occurred yesterday. The threats targeted multiple schools under multiple school boards across the northeast and northwest regions, demanding payment. As a precaution, the majority of the targeted schools have been closed while the investigation continues. All schools in the Timmins area were closed yesterday. Sudbury.com reached out to the 4 local school boards operating in the Greater Sudbury area to ask for more what's going on here. Anyways, bomb threats across Northern Ontario. Yeah, it's the kind of world I guess we're living in now, and probably see more of the same coming in the future. And I'm seeing a little bit of freezing now on my Facebook feed. So I'm not sure what is happening there. I apologize to everyone. We're just talking about local news here. Nothing incredible. So we're not saying anything naughty. We're not saying anything naughty. So Facebook people, please, you might want to just hop on over to YouTube then if Facebook is freezing. YouTube is fine, according to Isaiah. This is an interesting story here. We had 2 individuals, 2 youths carrying Halloween candy, were robbed of their candy by 2 other youths dressed in black, wearing tactical style vests and masks, according to Greater Sudbury Police. In a media release, they note that the incident took place at approximately 8:30 p.m. Get this, not downtown Sudbury, not downtown, on Metcalfe Street in Garson, one of the suburb communities of Sudbury. When the 2 masked youths grabbed the bag of candy and ran, the victims attempted to chase the 2 masked youths, but the 2 alleged thieves shot at them with an airsoft pistol, which shoots non-lethal plastic pellets. Officers were dispatched to the area where they found the 2 masked youths walking through a property of Falconbridge Road. The 2 ran away, and the Greater Sudbury Police Service reported catching one of the youths, but the other one was able to evade police and is still, as far as I know, at large with his air gun. Facebook freezing, but YouTube is good. Okay, well, I'm glad. So not sure why Facebook is freezing per se, man. Who knows? Maybe this is the end that we're knowing was coming at one time. Talking about the threats and you start freezing like crazy. Yeah, I have no idea if it's what I'm talking about. I don't think that it is. I have no idea. No idea. Because I'm not saying anything that CBC hasn't already said. It's on Sudbury.com. It's nothing spectacular, right? So, Northern Ontario School of Medicine University employees will be in a strike position on Sunday. That will be interesting what's happening there. They are their own... I should start speaking in code, yeah. We'd all have to learn a new language for sure. But yes, I do see YouTubers and different social media people out there speaking. Like, you can tell what they're saying, reading between the lines, but it would be kind of frustrating someone listening on the radio with words that aren't really the exact words, I would think. But anyways, let's hope we don't have to do that. But yeah, so now that the Northern Ontario School of Medicine is their own university standalone, they're facing a strike situation from their employees. We'll have to see. So on Monday, we'll know whether or not they chose to go on strike or not. I'm not a guy who, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of strikes and stuff like that, especially when people really have a good situation compared to a lot of other industries and sectors. You really have to wonder. I don't know. There's a dark side to unions. There's a good side. There's also a dark side to them where they have to make a use for themselves. Like if they don't show, hey, we're being strong against the organization or the company or whatever, and we're taking a stand all the time, then people say, well, why am I paying so much of my check to the union? What's it really doing for me, right? So anyways, so that's the dark side of it. Oh, why do they do it? Just because they can do it. LOL. Yeah, exactly. All right, so Greater Sudbury Police Board green lights proposed 14.3% budget increase over 2 years. CBC's reporting Greater Sudbury Police Service says it needs more money to account for inflation, hire more staff, and manage increases in violent crimes and opioid deaths. That is correct. And there is one thing to the welfare state that you see. It also becomes what we call a police state, right? As society crumbles and we see things like opioid crises and homelessness crisis and high inflation where people that wouldn't normally be in those crises get sucked into it. And then you also need to, now you need to police what's going on, and it's a spiral. And unless you do something about it, society is like a magnet that's just going to bring you down if you don't put in place things that will stop that from happening, right? But Sudbury police do need to operate, and there is an increase in crime, and we do need more police presence. I'm more in favor of police presence than I am of the photo radar that we're going towards here in Sudbury. That just, the camera takes a picture of your license plate and sends you the ticket in the mail. I mean, or by email, in the future. I'm just not a big fan. I'd rather have police out there doing the work, and they can also, their presence helps to keep everyone safe as well in other areas, not just speeding. So that's my 2 cents on that. Marianne says, I don't support unions after what I saw in the march. They should not have been there. Okay, you're talking about the 1 million march. Yes, for sure. So they are very, very political as well, right? So they're not only there for their organizations to fight for their employees, they're also political, and they kind of band together. All the unions come together with one particular kind of ideology, and they unite in that. It's usually on the far left of the spectrum of politics. And yes, they become very, very, very political. This news is coming to you from Sudbury.news, which is Sudbury's news aggregator, brings all of Sudbury's main news sources into one convenient location. Now that you can't get it on Google pretty much, or Facebook has pretty much shut all the news sites down on Facebook. This is a convenient way to get your news, aggregates all the stories into one location, Sudbury.news. So that's where we're getting this particular one from. So the story we just read was from Sudbury CBC, but also Sudbury Star headline, Greater Sudbury Board settles on a 2024 budget of $78 million. Just in case you weren't sure what that percentage worked out to, it's $78 million. Unfortunately, a senior has passed away in a collision on Manitoulin Island. 64-year-old person was killed in a collision on Manitoulin Island on Tuesday in a two-vehicle collision on Highway 6. This coming on the heels of the fatal accidents we had between Webwood, Massey, and Espanola in the last couple of weeks. 3 fatalities there. Very sad on our roads just lately. Sudbury Hospice hosts session on dying well. Hundreds of people took part in a session Wednesday called Dying Well. Let's Talk, hosted by Maison McCullough Hospice. That story coming to you from CTV Northern Ontario. You can check that out if you like. They also covered the story that we also talked about with the two youths robbing other two youths of their candy at gunpoint. It was an air gun. Luckily, it wasn't a regular firearm. So, but at the same time, I don't know what's up with that. I mean, I was 14 once, and was that too old to go trick-or-treating? Did I really need to go out at gunpoint and take another person's candy? I mean, candy's everywhere at everyone's house at this time, and they were already dressed up in tactical gear. They could have easily just went door to door and got their own candy. Now look what's going to happen to them. And look, they're now going to be charged and brought through the legal system. And what were they thinking? I guess as a youth, we don't really think out things too much. And unfortunately, they are, something that could have just been fun and good and got some candy. Now they're going to have some long-term effects, negative effects. Marianne, they are... Okay, so unions, I'm thinking, as you're saying, they are part of the problem. For sure. Can be, right? There's good aspects of unions and not so good aspects of unions. But now, speaking of the carbon tax that we want to talk about today, there's going to be a high-level politician in town. I believe Andrew Scheer will be in town this morning and calling on people to come down and sign a petition. The petition is that we all can benefit from relief on the carbon tax, not just certain Maritimers who vote for Justin Trudeau, right? Because it seems to be very partisan, his decision to not put the people in, I believe it's the East Coast, for paying carbon tax this winter. And why just let them off the hook? Why not continue it through all of Canada? Why do they get preferential treatment? It should be everybody gets it, not just people who are going to be voting for him. These are votes he would lose because it's not a very popular thing. Charging $300 average more for the winter to heat your home, right? On the worst possible fuel there is, and that's, oil burning furnaces. That's who he's giving the break to. Natural gas is a cleaner burning fuel. You would think you would want to reward people using the cleanest fuel possible, but no, it makes no sense. You can tell what it's for. We shared a segment from Andrew Scheer yesterday on the show of him talking about corruption at the highest level and talking about how Justin Trudeau's policies have really been damaging our economy. And he already went through 2 or 3 of them. We'll basically continue where we left off yesterday, where he talks about the inflation and how Justin Trudeau impacted that and other things as well. He'll be in town this morning, so if you want to join him downtown, if you want to venture downtown and you're not afraid during the day, it's okay, right? For those that have usually commented saying I'm afraid to go downtown at night, right? So it would be okay to go down there and join in a lot of your fellow Sudburyans in signing a petition to ask for relief from the carbon tax for yourself as well. So here's Andrew Scheer. We'll be back right after this.
Now, waste and corruption enough when you think about how hard you work for your paycheck and all the taxes that Justin Trudeau collects off of it. But when all that extra spending adds to inflation as well, you pay a double whammy. And this week, the Bank of Canada governor finally came clean and admitted that Justin Trudeau's deficits are driving up inflation.
When we add up the spending plans in the budgets, if all those spending plans are realized, government spending will be adding to demand more than supply is growing. And in an environment where we're trying to moderate spending and get inflation down, that's not helpful.
If only someone might have warned them that all that extra spending without economic growth to go along with it would lead to higher prices.
New cash creation constituted $303 billion of the sources of revenue of this government. Now, the Prime Minister might like to see this go on into the future. The problem is that, like all taxes, it increases costs on Canadians. That inflation is taxation without legislation.
And after years of telling Canadians that inflation would be low and temporary, they've now admitted it's here to stay. Justin Trudeau's inflation crisis isn't going away anytime soon.
All this is making underlying inflation more persistent. The combined impact of all these factors is that we now expect inflation to be about 3.5% through to about the middle of next year.
Well, Canadians are going through a cost of living crisis, paying high prices for everything and their paychecks shrinking thanks to inflation and higher taxes. Justin Trudeau's finding new ways to impose his woke ideological agenda, overturning decades of history and tradition. The Trudeau Liberals have announced that chaplains are no longer allowed to say prayers at Remembrance Day ceremonies.
But now, under this Liberal government, our military chaplains are being told they can't even pray for the fallen. During World War II, chaplains led prayer on the boats on the eve of the D-Day landings. And chaplains have provided last rites to dying soldiers in the fields. But now, the Prime Minister is telling Canadians that on Remembrance Day, they can't even pray for those who fought for our country? What is going on, Mr. Speaker?
Conservatives are going to fight back against this ridiculous decision. And last, but certainly not least, unless you're counting how many projects it's completed, is the Canada Infrastructure Bank. This is the bank that Justin Trudeau started with $35 billion of your money that hasn't completed a single project and loses money every single year. Only a bank run by Justin Trudeau could lose money in Canada. The All-Party Infrastructure Committee recommended that the Government of Canada simply abolish this bank. Conservatives voted for this common sense recommendation. Liberals voted to keep wasting your money. Remember previous Liberal governments that might have one or two of these scandals every year? This was all in just 1 week. 1 week in Justin Trudeau's government. We saw more corruption, more scandals, higher taxes, and higher inflation. So the good news is, as we head into the weekend, is that the House of Commons won't be sitting. So Justin Trudeau will be limited as to what kind of damage he can do. But I hate to think about what's going to happen on Monday. Conservatives fought hard to uncover this corruption and fight for lower taxes and lower inflation. And we'll do the exact same thing week in, week out until you get a common sense government.
So if you want to join Andrew Scheer, he will be downtown, Scotiabank parking lot. I believe Viviane Lapointe's office outside there to rally some people together to sign a petition to also allow other Canadians, not just those in the maritime provinces, to receive a rebate or to not have to pay on your home heating this year, the carbon tax, right? So why would you just give one certain segment of the population a break when you don't give all Canadians? And what about these Albertans too? You know what I mean? Like they're paying the lion's share of the energy for, you know, they create most of the energy we've been used to for many, many years. They were a have province, and they distributed their wealth throughout the other have-not provinces, and they seem to keep getting stuck and, you know, poked and prodded and whatever by the East. It's really not fair. It's just not fair. The more I learn about Alberta politics, and they've been given the shaft quite a bit, and they have every right to be concerned, as we do here in Ontario, with the carbon tax that we're not getting a break on. So if you want to join Andrew Scheer in the parking lot of Scotiabank downtown today, I believe it's at 11 a.m. You can come down there and sign the petition. All right, so a little bit on the carbon tax and the fund that they've created, Pierre Poilievre, and I apologize for the audio on this clip, but anyways, you can still hear what he is saying about it. Just ask yourself if you're surprised with this government's decision to go down this road and create this so-called green fund, and what's this all about anyways?
And where is the money going from this carbon tax? Well, we found out today. Secret recordings from a top bureaucrat in the Liberal government admit that a green fund was giving out, quote, free money. Get this, and a quote from the recording. It was free money, he said, before making an analogy with the controversy that affected John Chrétien's Liberal government in the 2000s. That is almost sponsorship scandal level giveaway. Wow. So when they said green fund, what they meant is putting green in the pockets of well-connected Liberals. $1 billion fund. $1 billion fund. While Canadians cannot afford to eat, heat, and house themselves, Trudeau wants to quadruple the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre in order to hand out more gifts and more giveaways to wealthy, connected Liberal insiders. So I'm offering a compromise to Justin Trudeau. If he'll come out of hiding from under his desk, I want to make a deal with him. We all know that we're not going to agree on the carbon tax. He wants to raise it. I want to axe it. We all know that, okay? But he's now admitting that taxing people's home heat does nothing for the environment and makes people worse off. He's admitted that with his flip-flop on Thursday. So, let's make a deal. Let's pause the carbon tax on all home heating until Canadians go to the polls so that we can have a carbon tax election where Canadians will decide between his plan to quadruple the tax to 61 cents a litre on heat, gas, and groceries, and my common sense plan to axe the tax and bring home lower prices. A carbon tax election. Carbon tax election.
So what do you think? A carbon tax election? Anybody up for that? You know, I really do think it would be an interesting science experiment, an interesting experiment, political experiment to just see if, you know, if that's something that you can stand behind. Is the idea of the carbon tax. And you know what? I honestly wouldn't mind paying the most taxes out of anybody in the world, which we already do, if the money actually went somewhere good, if I trusted where the money was actually going, if I knew the people managing the money were good with the money and they had a good sense of how to manage money. And but as we've seen, the misspending of the government is epic. It's epic. It's biblical. It's beyond anything we've ever seen before. It's contributing to the financial hardships of many, many Canadians. And on top of that, the inflation that we're experiencing now, caused by the policies and the spending of the federal government, we are taxed, heavily taxed for carbon. Our carbon emissions, with the idea that it's somehow going to fight climate. But we don't know what's being done with this. But there's this green fund that billions of dollars are going to friends of political people in high positions and whatever. And that's what bothers me is if there was real science that showed that we do really know what we can do to help the climate. Look, as human beings, do we really think we can really do that much to control the climate? We can control weather. We know that already. You can seed clouds, stop it from raining, cause it to rain. You can actually induce hurricanes and tornadoes. You can do that. It's man-made. We have the ability of doing that. But the overall climate of the planet, do we have the ability to help it go one way or the other? We don't even have concrete science showing what man's contribution has been to the very limited warming that we have, which is the planet's already on a natural warming trend. Anyways, so we don't know, and sure, we could have had something to do with it, but we don't have concrete evidence to show how much we had to do with the natural warming cycle that the Earth is already in. We just don't. But yet, somehow taxing us will solve the problem, right? Taxing us. Just create more money. And where's the money going? Thank you. Where's the money going? What are you doing with it? You know? What are you doing with the money? How transparent are, it's laughable. I don't know. Canadians are very docile as a culture. We're so docile. We'll put up with so much before we do anything. And as someone asked, the question is, when will Andrew Scheer be in the parking lot of Scotiabank downtown? And it is 11 a.m. 11 a.m. You can come down. Now, politicians, from what I've seen, been known to be late, especially when they're traveling around. But the word is that he will be there at 11 a.m. to sign the petition for the rest of Canada to also get a break on their home heating. And Stephen, I noticed your comment. It's just on oil, obviously, because there's some reasoning that the Liberal government believes that just oil should have some carbon tax relief and not other things. And you've bought into that, obviously, and that's fine. And I just think everyone needs it. Everyone needs relief. Canada's a cold country, for crying out loud. What are you going to do? Go around just cutting down all our trees, which also help with the carbon situation, right? And heat our homes with wood, and take away the thing that actually does scientifically we know eats carbon, which is trees, and we can't afford to heat our homes anymore. And that's what happened in Germany. They went around, all their trees are cut down now because people can't afford to heat their homes because they tried going wind and solar, which does not work. We don't have the capabilities of providing the energy we need through wind and solar yet. It's just not that capable. They shut down their nuclear plants too in Germany. And we saw that on a previous show. And anyways, if that kind of knowledge doesn't get in there and percolate and lead to, thinking for ourselves and not just taking what politicians tell us all the time and only listening to certain politicians. This is the thing about partisanship. Only listening to one side. Politics are politics. And there's good and bad and ugly on both sides. But what they're doing at the end of the day should be who you vote for, what they actually do when they're in office. And something's got to stop what's going on. It has to stop. It can't continue. Canada will be driven right into the ground. It's already going that way. Terrible. It's like someone who is trying to do this on purpose. I'm like, if you were trying to drive Canada into the ground on purpose, that's the job that's happening right now. It's as if they're doing it on purpose, and they're doing a good job of it. That just doesn't happen by accident. You can't just drive a country into the ground that much by accident. Like either it's incompetency or it's on purpose. And I'm more and more believing it's on purpose, because incompetency can't do that good of a job of doing something. And the job they're doing is driving the country into the ground. Incompetency can't just do that on its own. Like, just happenstance would also help stuff and it wouldn't get so bad. But it just, to me, seems like it's all done on purpose. So you got to do something to stop it. And if that's for voting for somebody else who's at least going to stop it, and sure, they might have certain things that you don't agree with or whatever, I couldn't care less. You got to just stop what's happening and then regroup and look at the state of things and then move on from there. Right? Or no? Anyways, Sun Media kind of sums it up here for us. They have a panel of paid journalists, people that are, credible journalists because they went to school and they're paid to do journalism, right? And that's what they do for a living. And they're discussing this whole carbon situation.
Remember when Justin
Canada.
Trudeau said that we had to implement a carbon tax because if we didn't, well, we're all basically going to die? Well, it doesn't seem that carbon tax is super popular, especially when you're plummeting in the polls. For context, hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilly and Warren Kinsella. Brian, I'm slightly exaggerating when I say about, the world is going to end if we don't put in a carbon tax, but that is the sort of hyperbole that was used by the Trudeau Liberals and his then Environment Minister, Catherine McKenna. I mean, all sorts of scary things were going to happen. But all of a sudden, the Trudeau Liberals are tanking in the polls, particularly in Atlantic Canada and other regions. So what does Trudeau do? Well, he puts a pause on the carbon tax?
He does for 3 years. This is because his political fortunes were melting faster than the polar ice caps. So he had to do something. He holds 24 of 32 seats in Atlantic Canada, and he was looking at the prospect of being reduced to single digits in Atlantic Canada. That's quite the thumping. So, highest proportion of people using oil to heat their homes is in Atlantic Canada. I'll give you an example. There's about 5.5 million households in Ontario. Only 350,000, mostly in rural areas, use home heating oil. So they live in areas that don't vote for Justin Trudeau. So he didn't care about them. And he didn't care about people that use, home heating oil in the prairies or elsewhere. They don't vote for him. But he cared about this one. And so, I want you to consider the optics of this news conference. This is a government that is particularly good at getting a nice view out there, nice optics. And what were the optics? It was Justin Trudeau standing in front of a wall of his MPs in the foyer of the House of Commons. There were no special signs made up. There was no special message. This was last minute. It wasn't even on his schedule to do this until late in the day. His original itinerary said he was in private meetings all day. Then suddenly he's got this big announcement: pause the carbon tax for 3 years and pay for your heat pump if you're below the median income.
To suggest this is anything but politics, Warren, I think you're naive to say that. But isn't this, from a political perspective, Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, has been saying this pretty much from the beginning. So isn't this almost more of a win for him? And can he take credit for this?
Absolutely. And full disclosure, okay? I'm a Calgary boy. I've worked in the oil patch. I worked for the oil patch. I live in rural Canada. I didn't think that the carbon tax was a good idea, but in Justin Trudeau's defense, he put it right in his platform back in 2015 and 2019 and 2021. He said he was going to do it. He actually got a mandate to do it. It was a bad idea, but he did it. So I've actually kind of defended him in the interim, saying, well, he kept his promise. It was a bad promise, but he kept his promise. Now he's broken his promise. So whatever credibility he had with environmentalists and NGOs is gone. It's vaporized, and he looks terrible. So like, even those of us who were prepared to give him some credit for actually, for once, making good on a promise, he's now broken his own promise. But I don't think it's going to work, because the guy who brought it in and got rid of it is the guy who can bring it in again. And I think he's handed Poilievre a gift, a gift on a silk pillow. That's what Justin Trudeau gave Poilievre yesterday.
Brian, how does this play out? Look, the three of us have talked about the polls for the last nearly year now. We see the trend. We see what's getting pretty much baked in. Will this move the dial at all? Do you think that those Liberal MPs that were in Atlantic Canada are up for re-election, facing serious challenges, facing the staring down the barrel of losing their riding? Are they saying to him, you've got to do something? This is the number one issue for us.
I think they've been saying that to him, and he rejected them for a long time. And then this surprise move. But, the carbon tax doesn't just apply to home heating oil. It applies to gasoline, to diesel. The people of Atlantic Canada were getting a special break from Justin Trudeau that the rest of us weren't. And let's be honest, they're getting the special break now for the same reason, because they vote Liberal. So the federal price on carbon pollution, as Justin Trudeau calls it, didn't apply in Atlantic Canada until July 1st. They had a lower rate, a special deal. July 1st, it came in. 2 weeks later, the clean fuel regulations came in, which is another carbon tax, essentially. That's what it's designed to do, the same purpose, and it's another tax. So they saw the price of gas jump by 14 cents a liter across a lot of the region. So, saying you'll take it off home heating oil for 3 years, that's not going to make people feel like, yeah, you've actually heard me. And then, he turns around and says, I'll give you a free heat pump. Well, if the heat pump would have solved this problem, wouldn't it have been better to just subsidize or give the heat pumps out in the first place, instead of putting in this tax, establishing a bureaucracy to refund you the money and tell everyone the falsehood that you'll get more than you pay back. If this was the answer, giving out the heat pumps, that would reduce emissions. Why not just do that instead of this whole charade? But, for Trudeau, it's always about polling and optics and votes, and he's in trouble now.
And, Warren, I'm going to give you the last word. I think that there's a general understanding now. Maybe there wasn't back in 2015. The Tories ran those ads. He's just not ready. I mean, it's so obvious, and it has been day after day, month after month, that he wasn't ready and still remains unready. He's not particularly philosophically consistent either. I mean, he's very good at parroting lines. Like, he talks about that, looking at things through a gender equity lens, and he talks about the environment, and he talks about all of these soft issues. But I don't know if he believes in them. I think he just says them to sound popular with a certain demographic. This one is interesting because, he's getting a lot of pushback from corners of not only his own party, that are the hardcore left and environmental types, but, former cabinet ministers even lamenting about this. Does this matter to him? Like, does he care about that? Or it's just, look at 2025, I got to win re-election?
It does matter to him. There's two things he cares about. There's two things that matter to him. One is Instagram, pictures of himself, and the polls, right? And the one thing we know about the Trudeau government is they are addicted to polls in the way that no previous government is. And if you look at the numbers, it explains why he did what he did yesterday. Like, he is still somewhat competitive in the province of Quebec. He's more or less tied with the Bloc Québécois. Tories aren't as much of a factor there. In Ontario, in urban areas, he's still got a shot, but he needed the so-called red wall. The red wall is in Atlantic Canada. He cannot afford to lose those 20-odd seats, otherwise he loses government. Yesterday, what it said to me is he's prepared to break any promise to hold on to power, but it also said to me, Justin Trudeau is staying. If he didn't give a sweet damn about his successor's chances of saving the furniture, he wouldn't have done what he did yesterday. Yesterday, to me, was a clear indication that Justin Trudeau wants to stick around, and he's trying to improve his chances. Depressing news for everybody, I know. I apologize, but I think that's why he did what he did.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Does this flip-flop on the carbon tax change Justin Trudeau's political fortunes? Go to the...
So, yeah, and that's a bit of a conversation around there. I've seen there's some opposing views. Some people love Justin Trudeau and what he's doing and believe everything he says, and some people are skeptical. So you got everything in between, right? And it's really interesting how... That's politics. And that's why they say, at family gatherings, you shouldn't talk about politics. You shouldn't talk about religion because it does the same thing, right? And but we talk about things on this show that are hard to talk about, and it is what it is. And sometimes you have to have certain conversations in order to understand the world you live in a little bit more. And so Andrew Scheer, who's the former Speaker of the House, former leader of the Conservative Party, ran against Justin Trudeau in the previous election before Pierre Poilievre. Oh, and before Aaron What's-His-Nose. And he'll be in town today, 11 a.m. on at Scotiabank parking lot downtown. You can check him out there. He'll also have a petition you can sign. Apparently, it's around Vivienne Lapointe's office, just to kind of make a point of it. And as we talked about a little bit before yesterday, trying to make sense of things and the world we live in, it's not easy to do. And you really need to get perspective on that. So I know Facebook is freezing anyways, so it's the end of the show. Thanks for being with us. If you're on YouTube, it's probably good because Facebook has been freezing most of the show. We're not sure why. But we'd like to thank you for being on the show and commenting. This has been Sudbury News Talk on CKLU 96.7 FM. And we're each and every weekday morning coming at you live on Facebook when it's not freezing, YouTube, cklu.ca, streaming in audio along with youtube.com when it's not freezing. Looks like it's freezing now as well. So who knows what's happening. We'll be back, God willing, same time, same place tomorrow. Have a safe and happy Thursday, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.